Hello, you're listening to E-Bible Fellowship's new open form excerpts, and now we present the following excerpt.
Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hello, Chris. I have two questions. Number one is concerning the disciple Peter. Out of all the disciples, he was the only one that was married. And I've been pondering as to why Peter was called and his wife didn't follow.
I don't think we know all the details. We do know Peter was called to be an apostle, and he was definitely very busy. And by the way, we know he was married because there was an instance where his mother-in-law had a fever, and Jesus healed the mother-in-law, and then she rose up from her fever to minister. And that's actually a picture of salvation, just like all the other healings that, of course, we think of as a minor thing of fever, but with fever, you're burning. And that would indicate someone in their sin under the wrath of God. And wrath in the Bible identifies with burning or fire. And then Christ removed the fever, the burning from her, and she immediately ministered. Just like every time someone became saved, they were delivered from the fire of God's anger and immediately commissioned to be servants, messengers of the gospel, and wait on others. So yes, we know Peter had a mother-in-law. If you have a mother-in-law, that means you have a wife. I don't remember any instance where his wife comes into view. It could be he was a widower. I mean, that's one possibility. Or it could be that his wife was just behind the scenes. And the Bible gives allowance, permission in 1 Corinthians 7 for a man to separate from his wife for a temporary period of time. It says in 1 Corinthians 7 in verse 4, the wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. So this allows a man to, but it requires consent. So the wife has to agree. In other words, a man cannot come home. Peter would be under this law. He could not go home and say, I've met the Messiah, I'm going to follow him, goodbye. Or allow me, even if he said it was temporary, I'm going to follow him. Do I have your blessing, your agreement, your consent? And if she said no, well, then he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. There would have to be agreement with husband and wife. And certainly in this case, if this is how it played out, she would have said, yes, I understand, dear, go. And he would have done so biblically, because it had to do with prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting means get the gospel out. It's a synonym for getting the gospel out. And so, obviously, when you're with the Lord himself, and as he's in bodily form, ministering upon the earth, you have every legitimate reason to express to your wife. And I'm sure she could see the miracles performed and probably very quickly said, I understand. This is just incredible and amazing how wonderful that the Messiah has come. Of course you must follow him. And so he did with consent, but they had to have some kind of agreement to come together again. And it could have been, they're going about Galilee, wherever Peter's house was, and he goes home. Or maybe he went to a different town and eventually he comes back. So, there's tons of details that the Bible, that God didn't get into, that we have to basically just kind of speculate, but we do know, given that he is serving directly to the Lord in person, and the Lord would have known everything about his situation, including his wife. And this is the word of God. This is Christ's word concerning laws for spouses regarding ministry, that the Lord would have done everything uprightly. And maybe even saying something to Peter, about time you go see your wife. Again, speculation. However, speculation under the umbrella, under the understanding that Christ does all things perfectly.
Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for more new open forum excerpts that will be added periodically.